But today we do have a very special presenter. Her name is Susan Farber, who many of you may know. She's very active. Her and her husband are very active in the community. But one of her, I'm going to say, passions is definitely Jewish National Fund. And that's what we have her on today for, to really talk about what they do, why she loves the work that they do, and how she got involved. And I think it really is amazing what she and her husband do through JNF and what they do for Israel because of that philanthropic work. But more than just philanthropy, it's also involvement, where you get involved yourself, and that's what she'll be sharing. So I'm going to share my screen, and if you do have questions, I think we'll leave them towards the end if that's best, and we'll get started. Give me a
I'm
second.
not quite ready for the PowerPoint.
Oh, sure, definitely.
Okay, well, thank you for inviting me. And I live here in Scottsdale. I'm 64 years young with my husband, Stephen. We've been here 36 years. We have 3 grown children, and they're all married, 2 grandchildren, and 1 on the way. And I have been managing Stephen's large medical practice since 1992. And throughout the years, I've been very active with various organizations. As Ellen can tell you, it was Women's American Org, I think, is where we met, and APAC, Federation, and my synagogue. And although I've always been pro-Israel, I had never been to a JNF event. I thought JNF was about planting trees. Not that I have anything against planting those trees, but it wasn't my high priority. But that all changed the summer of 2014 when Israel was under a missile attack by Hamas from Gaza. I'm sure many of you watched the conflict unfold, and I did, and I wanted to do something for Israel. A friend told me that JNF was putting together a solidarity mission. And sure enough, long story short, in less than 5 days, I was on an airplane on my way to Israel. Back then, it was pretty difficult. If you remember, all the flights going direct to Israel that were American Airlines were grounded. So it took some creativity. But it was on that life-altering trip that I saw firsthand the power of Jewish National Fund, how they changed lives of people. Okay, I think I'm ready for the first slide, Rabbi.
All right, give me a second. Let me set that up.
So there were 25 of us who ventured on this trip. And the first reality when I arrived in Israel was that I was in a war zone. Now, I've been to Israel many times, and in fact, I had been there 5 months before this trip, but this was different. Tel Aviv and Jerusalem were eerily quiet. I didn't see any people, no tourists, no cars on the road, just the soldiers. But I learned quickly that the roadblocks, the soldiers, and even the sirens were there to protect me and not scare me. Here in this picture, you see our first day, we met with the mayor of Jerusalem at the time. His name's Nir Barkat. He was giving us a security briefing and how the whole country, including Jerusalem, was why they were on special alert. Can we go to the next picture, please?
Sure.
Many of you probably know this is an Iron Dome. They took us to the installation, and it's interesting, they hide them. And this one was not far from the airport. In fact, I think you can see some of the antennas in the background from the airport, but it's in the grove of orange trees. And then about 100 feet away, there's a shack, literally a shack, with 2 young men who sit there waiting to be told when to push the button to initiate and engage those missiles. There are 16 of them in that package there. Okay, I think we can go to the next slide. We continued on down South Chester Road, where we stopped at their indoor mall, and we purchased gifts to give to the children that we would be meeting at this Sderot indoor playground. When we purchased toys for the kids, we were also going to pack packages for the soldiers. So we bought socks, toiletries, snacks. The merchants that we met in that indoor mall were crying and hugging us for coming and shopping because their sales were way down. Now, Sderot is a working class community, mostly Moroccan. that is part of the Gaza Envelope, which is an area in the Western Negev that borders with Gaza. And all these communities, by definition, are less than 7 kilometers to the border. The indoor playground was built by Jewish National Fund after they realized that the children could not play outdoors during this time period because when the sirens go off, they only have 15 seconds to get to a bomb shelter. I think we can move on to the next one, please. Next slide. Oh, wait.
Did I skip a slide?
Yes, we did.
There you go. Sorry about that.
There we
Is
go.
that correct?
Yep, that's it. That's Chuck E. Cheese on steroids. That's the indoor playground. 21,000 square feet. And it is surrounded by the bomb shelter. By definition, a bomb shelter has to have walls that are 2 feet thick of cement. Now, what we did that day is we had a pizza party for the children, and for some of the soldiers came by who were serving on the border with Gaza. Dignitaries came, and JNF invited David Dror, a popular singer in Israel at the time. And he began with a song called Gesher Tsar Ma'od. Some of you may know it. But the translation is, the whole world is a narrow bridge, and the most important part is not to be afraid. And I'd like to play his performance for you. So we can place the next one, please. I will tell you, you cannot see in this film, each soldier had their rifle underneath their chair. They got up after the concert and we had to say goodbye to them, and I'm hugging them. I did not want to let go of these soldiers. At that point, I understood how parents, what the ultimate sacrifice is to send your kids. We were sending them back to the war, essentially. These were 18, 19, 20-year-olds. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. We traveled to Haluza, which is another border community. Interesting about this community is most of the people there originally lived in Gaza in a place called Gush Katif. But when Israel handed Gaza over to the Palestinians in 2004, they were forcibly brought out of Gaza, and many of them landed in this community. So we were on our way there because we were stopping at this preschool where we were there to help paint walls of the school and to pack the boxes for the soldiers that I spoke about earlier. So we get off the bus and these 3- and 4-year-old children greeted us, and they're waving their Israeli flags and singing Shalom Aleichem. We followed them into the school building. Not more than 15 minutes go by, and then the sirens start. Next slide, please. So there were 2 bomb shelters attached to the school, and we helped the teachers scoop up children and bring them into the bomb shelters. The smaller children began to cry. We began singing in hope of calming them. And some miracle, they stopped, and 5 minutes later, we were all able to get out. The sirens rang 2 more times while we were there that afternoon. Do you know what Israeli children call bomb shelters? Safe rooms. Can we have the next slide, please? So this is a bomb shelter that you would find anywhere in the Gaza envelope. Normally, they're just plain cement boxes. JNF started a program where we can paint them and make them more user-friendly. Children are not as afraid of them and not afraid to enter them. This particular one was a memorial that we set up to Samuel Ohayim, who was the director of the indoor playground. He passed away in 2018, and the Gaza Envelope Task Force did this as a memorial to him. Next slide, please. The next day we went back to Haluza, and we were there to pour cement for the last bomb shelter of the 200 that JNF had promised that summer to this community in Haluza. Normally, the government will cover all bomb shelters, but only within 6 kilometers. Some of these communities are just like 6.3 kilometers outside of the border. And some of these homes are just temporary homes because in Haluza, the government will subsidize you for a year to come and live there and see if you like it and if your neighbors like you. It's a very rural community, as I'll explain in a minute. But the community leader, his name is Yedidia Harush, a dear friend, and he told me that when these missiles started that summer, he called all the American Jewish organizations, and they all promised to start fundraising for these bomb shelters. But when he called the JNF CEO, Russell Robinson, he said, "How much do you need?" and delivered the money promptly. Next slide, please. So I put this slide in here. That was from that afternoon because a lot of people confuse JNF USA with JNF, KKL JNF. In 1901, JNF started with Theodore Herschel, who went around with the pushki boxes collecting coins to buy land in the ancient land of Israel, areas we now call, well, they're called the West Bank, Samaria, Judea, and thanks to him, we have Tel Aviv. So KKL has the land leases. They own the land from collecting the money and buying the land over the years. We broke away, JNF USA broke away in around 1980, 1982. And our projects are totally separate. Our boards, our national board is totally separate. We have no one who represents us on their board, and they have no one representing them on our national board. We work with affiliates in Israel. We do not own any land masses. Anyway, back to my story. Long story short, I came home from that trip and I told my husband, we're hiring an office manager so that I could devote more time to JNF. I found my passion. Next slide. So you may ask, why would anyone want to live there? Next slide, there we go. It's a very strategic for Israel to build communities next to their borders to prevent their hostile neighbors from encroaching on their land. And most residents in the Gaza envelope would tell you that it's 99% pure heaven and 1% hell when the sirens go off. I wanted to show you this because it's mostly rural down there and a lot of farming goes on down there. And they provide a lot of the a lot of the produce that's used in Israel, and about 60% of what they raise, I think they export to Europe. And as you can see, they grow beautifully cucumbers and peppers and all kinds of vegetables and fruits in the sand using drip irrigation and modern technology that was developed in Israel. Also strawberries on a vine. Next slide, please. This is another picture of what it looks like in the Gaza envelope, some of the farming that goes on thanks to drip irrigation. And I want to tell you how I got so involved with the Gaza envelope. When I got back from my trip, I ended up joining the Arizona board. But JNF has this brilliant idea of having something called a task force, and they have 32 of them, of different interests, of different groups in Israel, covering different areas of Israel. And it's brilliant. Why is it brilliant? You take someone like me, a donor, who gives money to the Gaza Envelope Task Force for projects in this region. I pay to go on a mission, hopefully once a year, where I get to meet the community leaders and see where my money went, what they want to see happen next, how they're growing in these areas, because JNF, which I'll talk about later, has a vision of bringing people down to the Negev and what that encompasses. So on this task force, my goal is to go there and I see what we're doing and I come back and I'm passionate and I help raise dollars and awareness to help support the quality of life, infrastructure, and programs for the residents of that region. So not only do we get to see the money, where the money goes, but we get to meet people in person and see for ourselves all the progress that's been made and deal directly with the Israelis. These community leaders have become extended family to me. We share our simchas together as well as sad times. And in desperate times, like when the sirens go off, we're there for them. They can, we're in a WhatsApp group with them, and we can meet with them regularly, and they feel acknowledged, they feel heard. Someone outside Israel cares about them and knows what they're going through and the stress and challenges they're facing in this area. But to be honest, I think I get more from being part of this task force because it allows me some ownership in Israel. It gets me, I'm happy and proud to be an American. There's no way I could move to Israel in this lifetime. I'm very situated here. But this program allows me to be part of what's going on there and feel like I'm helping in in a way that, not just with money. Next slide, please. In fact, this is on one of the trips. I'm on Kibbutz Nahal Oz, and we're right up against the border with Gaza. You can see Gaza behind me and all the wire between the two areas. And like I go about once a year up until COVID. Next slide, please. Also, more importantly, we can bring awareness. We brought 3 residents from the Gaza Envelope in 2018, the summer that the kite balloons started coming into Israel. I'm sure you've heard about them. We held town halls. In fact, there was one at our own JCC here to discuss the destruction and devastation from these bombs. Can you imagine raising children and having to explain to them that balloons can be dangerous? Also, what Hamas did is they would attach bombs to falcons and then light the fuse and then send them off into Israel so that the falcon would burn as well. It was horrific. There was so much devastation, so much of the land, of the farming land, because it was summertime. And like here in Arizona, the land is dry and everything's brittle and everything would catch fire. In fact, next slide, please. This is a map of the fires over a 1-month period that summer. So not only did we bring awareness, but we fundraised and we were able to buy special fire equipment that was used by volunteer firemen in the area, because you can see how spread out, and it's a very rural area, and there's forestry and there's farms, to get to the fires with water so they can put them out as well. It was just terrific. But JNF is not only there in times of crisis. It's a nonprofit that's visionary. The Negev is 70% of the landmass in Israel. The Galilee is 17% of the landmass. So where do you think 85% of Israeli people live? They live in what we call the triangle: Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and Haifa. Living in these cities is very expensive and very congested. What JNF does is it supports the infrastructure in these outer areas to help build communities that people desire to live in. That means the quality of life, jobs, schools, medical centers, and culture. The goal is to have 500,000 Israelis move to the Negev and 300,000 up to the Galilee. So the work that JNF is doing can be broken into 7 different action areas. Next slide, please. The first one we call community building. The indoor playground was an example of that in Sderot. We also are building, if you look at your upper left screen, your left, that is the Food Innovation Center that's going to be in the Western Galilee. It will contain the Culinary Institute. And actually, I learned in setting this up with Rabbi that he is friends with the director, Matt Hoffman, who came from Arizona, is now in Israel with his family, not only growing his beard, but growing the Culinary Institute. And I believe they're planning on breaking ground in about a year. Another one, if you look on your right, that is the Beersheba River Park there. And the land adjacent to it, we are going to be building the JNF USA World Zionist Village. It's a $350 million project. And what it will contain is a place for Jews from all over the world to come, and Israelis, and learn about Israel history, Judaism, and also a place for teachers to come and learn how to teach it. And also will contain the Alexander Muss High School, a second campus for them, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. We've also put in like the Lauder Employment Center in Beersheba, which helps people find jobs. The idea is to retain people who go to Ben Gurion University in Beersheba to stay in the area. So we're very invested down there, and we're hoping the Zionist Village will also help as well. The lower left is a playground in Haluza that we funded. There is a community of Ethiopian Jews there as well. Next slide, please. So in Israel, no Israeli is left behind. There has been a quote that there's approximately 10% of all Israelis have some sort of disability or special needs. So what we try to do is mesh them better with society. And one of the milestones in an Israeli's life is joining the army. And because there you make friends, you might find your future spouse, your future husband, your future wife, or you might decide what you want to do with your life, or decide what to study when you go on to college, when you leave the army. Well, the problem is if you have a disability, you are not accepted by the army until this program called Special in Uniform. And on several of the Army bases and Air Force bases, they have a Special in Uniform group with special training so that they can don a uniform and go through special training just like soldiers do before they're incorporated on the base. And then based on their skill sets, they work on the base. And it's more than just dishwashing. One young man became an expert in making screws. And when he got out of the army, he ended up working for like a Home Depot kind of place. And because he could talk about screws and what kind of screws do what, and what you need for your project. So the idea is to help mesh them back into Israeli society. There's also another special place called Adineg in Nahalat, Iran. It's a place for disabled people who come in as infants or young children who cannot speak for themselves. They are so severely disabled. You tour this place and it's like heaven on earth. I'm in the medical, I've run a medical practice. I ran a medical lab many lifetimes ago. I have never seen such care and respect for patients. And once you come into this place as a resident, you can stay there your whole life and they accommodate you. They have a special pool with chairs. They have animals, horseback riding, anything to help give a better quality of life for these that are so disabled. Next slide, please. So the third area I wanted to discuss was Israel Advocacy and Education, which this picture is American high school students in Israel studying at the Alexander Muss High School, which we own. This campus is outside of Tel Aviv. And I have to say, 2 weeks ago, a great miracle happened. A plane load, 241 students, plus some JNF professionals who were escorting them, were given permission to enter Israel and took off and took the students to Israel. This is one of the first large groups to be allowed into Israel. You can imagine the red tape it took from JNF to get this plane off, but it was worth it. A sobering statistic about this program: in the 1990s, about 25,000 high school Americans, or just Jewish students from high school students around the world, found their way to Israel for one program or another. That number has dropped to under 9,000 before COVID, since like 2014. So Alexander Muss High School, you can spend a year or a summer, and you get to study Judaism, the history, archaeology, modern history, but you do it by touring through Israel. It's phenomenal. Another advocacy program we do is called Caravan for Democracy, where we take non-Jewish college students. They have to apply for this from campuses to Israel on a subsidized 10-day trip to Israel. It's like Birthright, but for non-Jewish college students. And what we do is we expose them to everything, all different populations, Arab Israelis, hoping that they'll form a better opinion of Israel. And most of these people have leadership positions. In fact, one of them just became a state senator in Nevada. The notice came out on 2021. He had gone to the University of Nevada, and now he's a state senator there. So it's a plus plus. We also send faculty from colleges and universities to Israel in a program called Faculty Fellowship. And we send about 80 professors at a time, and they're met by their colleagues from the universities and colleges in Israel in their special fields, so that they can come together. Next slide, please. The next area is research and development. And we have a thing called the Arava Institute, which is very special. It brings students from Israel, Jordan, West Bank, even Gaza, other Arab countries, and from all over the world, even the US, to study water and sewage management together. It's a phenomenal program, and the idea is that by learning conservation and modern technology together, they can, that someday, maybe if they work in the Israeli government and someone's working in the Jordanian government, they'll recognize a classmate and then be able to trust each other, to work together, to face the challenges, the water challenges, which are very big in the Middle East. Another program is ACAT. And what we do is we bring students from 1,000 students at a time from developing countries all over the world to learn farming techniques in the same area of the Arava. You have them coming from Nepal, Thailand, Kenya. And again, this is, they learn about farming in the desert and how to handle a drought and modern water technology. And then they stay a year and then they bring it back to their developing countries. Next slide, please. The fifth area is called heritage sites. And in this picture here, you see a group in front of Athlete, which was the area and the boat that brought over immigrants to Israel during the war. It's not only important for all Jews of the whole world to come and see the modern history in Israel, but it's very important for young Israelis as well to know their history. The picture on your right is soldiers who are visiting Ammunition Hill. That's where the battle occurred. They're standing in front of bunkers, trenches in the ground. The battle with Jordan occurred, and when they realized, the Israelis realized that they could take Jerusalem. And that was the next, within hours, that's what they did. And they come here and learn about honor and about the sacrifices that the Israelis made during the wartime and throughout the years for this. Unfortunately, that's the end of my slideshow, but I have two other areas I wanted to mention. The sixth area is water, and JNF has helped build 250 reservoirs and dams in Israel. And I don't know if you're aware, but Israel is one of the leading nations as it recycles 85% of their water. They use it for crops and cattle in the Negev. And the seventh area is forestry and green innovations. Those trees that we all know get planted, that's under that. And then there's some camping programs, as well as helping farming technique as well, and helping Israelis come back to the land. I'd love to open it up for questions now, if anyone has any questions about JNF, about my trip, about me.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. And I wonder if you can also just add, before we do get some questions, I know that, let's say, people here who, let's say, support Federation, which also supports Israel and somewhat, are you able to differentiate kind of what they support relative to JNF?
Yes, Federation does very important work, but Federation takes care of our own Jewish communities as well. It's a big portion of what they do. I believe it's almost like 80% of dollars raised by Federation stays within our own communities throughout the United States. They do support the UJA, which is, and the Joint Distribution Committee, which was responsible for taking care of Jews around the world and helping, and they do help, the UJA helps Jews who want to make Aliyah to Israel. As long, also Nefesh B'Nefesh, I do believe they support that as well. I would tell you in a heartbeat, you should support Federation, but all JNF does, all our work is with our affiliates in Israel, with our projects and programs in Israel. That's all we do. We run missions, and how we do that, how do we, find donors? We run missions. We sent something like, before COVID, 700 people to Israel, students to Israel, all kinds of programs. Or people traveling to Israel want to do a one-day tour of JNF sites, we offer that as well. So that's how we get the word out. We bring some of our affiliates and partners to the US. We hold parlor meetings or events like a breakfast or a women's lunch or a men's event. So you can learn about these programs. But I support Federation. I would never tell someone don't support them. Very important work what they do here. So much what goes on in our community here is supported by them as well. But all we do is Israel. So that's, I don't know. I hope I explained that.
Yeah, no, that was good. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Susan? Oh, Ellen does.
You're muted, Ellen.
It's the word of 2021.
Okay. What is the address of the JNF office in Phoenix? I have a pushka full of money in a can from over 40 years ago.
I don't have the actual address. I see Kim's on, maybe she knows. Kim Kotzen's our present president, and I'm honored to introduce her to all of you today. Another board member I see is on, Bruce Goldberg. Nice to see you. But they're located, they moved. They're on by Tatum and Shea. They're in the white buildings over there. But Ellen, I'm at susanfarber@cox.net. Email me and I'll send you the address when we get done.
Okay.
You can take it over, or I'll come pick it up from you and I can bring
There
it
you
in.
go.
Ooh, that's even better.
Service, Ellen. Door-to-door service.
Yeah.
Ethel
So
or
I'm
Herb,
keeping the can.
It's a collector's item.
Right.
But anyways, you're supposed to keep it and refill it.
Susan, the address of the office is 5010 East Shea Boulevard, and it's suite number 230.
Thanks, Bruce. But Ellen, honestly, contact me. I'll be happy to pick it up from you.
Great. That would be terrific.
It'd be great to see you in person.
All right, Ethel or Herb, who had the question?
Just turned it on just in case something.
Oh, in case.
Well, we've donated to JNF, and once in a while we would get a magazine, but it was you gave us a different view. I thought of it more as trees and water concert, the working with water for Israel. But I didn't know that they also did playgrounds and helped the disabled. So it was very informative. Thank you.
I feel like you're not opening up the magazine, Ethel.
I do. You know what? They show pictures of people who've gone.
That's true, different events.
Yeah.
Actually, my
We do have trees.
my introduction to JNF was through Alan Kluger, who Susan, you probably know.
Yes.
And
yes.
one of the first things that I learned in one of the breakfasts was, why did they get into trees to begin with? That's a fascinating history, which it was really all about.
Soil.
What was it?
It's conserving the soil to conserve the water.
No,
No.
that was how they owned land. If you didn't live on the land, but
You
you
had to
planted a
use-
tree.
You had to show usage. And because they had more land than people originally, they planted trees, so made it look like a farm. And that gets back to why all these communities are on these borders with hostile countries. Because if they didn't do that, there would be encroachment. People come and settle and they say, that's it. It's squatters' rights, I guess. So it was very important. That's how it started. We still plant them though, and you can still purchase them. And in fact, they just started this year. You can plant trees honoring pets, as a matter of fact. Yeah, if you go to the website, it should be.
Is it cheaper for pets or?
No, same
Oh.
price, $18. And let me tell you,
I'm joking.
yeah, it doesn't even cover the cost, but we've had that number for the longest time. So, any other questions?
I'm curious because I know you mentioned about the KKL, and I'm not asking about why you split, more about, you said JNF of the United States does not own land,
Right.
but the KKL does?
They're the ones that hold the land leases that you read about, that they're building something like over in the West Bank or something. We don't do that. We have programs. We'll fund projects. We provide zero interest loans. Israel has some funny laws about building, but most of our work, the majority of the work happens in the Negev and the Galilee. But like if a contractor wants to build 200 homes, he cannot start one home. He cannot even clear the land until he sells the properties. So it could take 8 years. You're waiting for your home. So what we do is we help speed it up by giving the money, by giving them the money, the loan money, so they can show they have it, because that's why the government won't let them do it, so they can get building the homes faster, because it's a lot easier to sell a home as it's going up in a community.
Oh, that's actually, and you said interest free?
Pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes.
Ellen, go for it.
Yeah. When we were in Israel, we actually planted a sapling. Do they still do that?
Yes. So what happens is, everyone does. Every mission ends. They ended that for the same place. Oh gosh, I have the name here of the park that we go to the Harvey Hertz JNF Ceremonial Tree Planting Center. And all missions end there and you plant it. And I said, well, this looks vaguely familiar because I've only been every year I go about 4 times to Israel. 3 of them are actual missions. And they tell me that they leave it planted for a certain amount of time, waiting for it to grow to a certain height. And then they dig it up and move it to another forest area and that's why you have the pathways and you can walk there and do it. And because I was wondering why it was looking the same all the time. But they do plant them. So.
And they give you a certificate at the end?
No.
No? Maybe I didn't do it through JNF.
They may have. Well, they may have earlier on, but now they're 400 missions a year is a lot. So.
But I do know that they do. Maybe Ellen's talking about the cards. Like if you donate a tree in someone's honor, they send you a letter. So maybe that's what you're referring to.
No, when we went, I guess it was behind Hadassah. I think it was behind Hadassah or something like that, the building. And you could actually go and you planted the tree. And then when you left, they gave you a certificate with a little tree pin. And like we did it in honor of Michael's bar mitzvah. And my cousin did it in memory of his father, his parents. It was really exciting. And then, of course, I always showed that to my class. Find Maura Ellen planting the tree,
Cherish
So-
it because it might be worth something because they don't do that anymore.
Oh,
Not
okay.
through JNF anyway. Hi, Phyllis.
Phyllis, did you have a question? Or you're just saying hi? You're muted though, so if you wanted to talk. There you go.
I just wanted to say, it's great to see you.
Great to see you
Also,
too, Phyllis.
There is, was the most interesting presentation. I learned a lot. So many things I did not know that JNF took care of. And so I really appreciate you doing this.
Well, thank you. Coming from you, that means a lot. Thank you. I could go on for hours, actually.
There's one, I
Those
see
of
one
you-
more question. Hold on. Stan
Oh,
and
sorry.
Betty, do you have room for one more question?
Sure.
Okay.
What does it cost to plant a tree these days?
$18. You go
I go
to
back to $2.
well, or you can buy a package for $100. You can plant 10 trees,
So we did.
or you can keep 10 trees in your Easy Tree account, actually. So, and I give them out for everything and anything. Someone becomes a grandmother, I send a tree. You
So
know,
can I ask you, I guess, what's the reason why they're planting trees now?
well, it's great conservation and the forests are there. And as you know, several years ago, there was a horrific forest fire.
Right.
And we're reintroducing the trees there.
So, but it's, in
important.
other words, it's kind of like it became part of what it was synonymous with. Is that the idea?
Yes, and put to good use there. I think Israel's the only country that started this millennium with more trees than what they had in the early.
I saw that. I actually just read that somewhere.
I think we've planted over 250 million trees.
Wow.
Yeah.
I literally just read that as some factoid on the internet. But yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Trees.
Well, thank you so much, Susan. This was, as you heard from Phyllis, I can't say it better than she did.
Thank you.
This was great, informative, and I hope that will get people involved. If you want to learn more about JNF, their website is very simple. It's jnf.org.
And then put Arizona and you'll see all the events or any of the Zooms, or there's virtual Zooms. You can sign up and see other programs about everything I talked about today and all the communities. And there's so much more, in 45 minutes doesn't do it justice.
right.
But
Thank
thank you.
There are also